Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a huge challenge for any company that's gone global. How do you possibly make sense of your finances when you're earning in euros, paying in yen, and reporting everything back in dollars? Let's get into it. So, just imagine this for a second. Your company's crushing it. You're making sales across Europe, so euros are flowing in. You're sourcing materials from Japan, so yen are flowing out. But back at headquarters, the board, your investors, they need to see everything in US dollars. How on earth do you make that happen? I mean, it's a massive accounting headache, right? Exchange rates are bouncing around every single day. So how can you present one single coherent financial picture of what's going on? Well, that's the exact problem we're going to unscramble today. Luckily, we're not starting from scratch. The accounting world actually came up with an answer. It's called International Accounting Standard 21, or as you'll hear it, IAS 21. The best way to think about it is like an official rulebook, a common language that lets companies everywhere translate all that multi-currency chaos into one single understandable report. Okay, so where do you even start with all this? Well, before you can translate a single dollar or euro, IAS 21 says you have to do something really important first. You've got to figure out your company's financial home base. Now, in accounting speak, this home base is called your functional currency. And listen, it's not always what you think. It's not necessarily where your main office is or the currency on your letterhead. It's the currency of the main economic world you live and breathe in. You could almost call it your company's financial native language. So how do you find it? Well, IAS 21 gives us a kind of checklist. It's really all about following the money. You have to ask, what currency is driving your sales prices? What currency do you use to pay your people and buy your materials? When you raise money, what currency is that in? And when you get paid, where do you park that cash? The answers to these questions are going to point you straight to your functional currency. And this idea gets super important when you have foreign offices. You got to ask yourself a key question. Is that branch in Berlin just an arm of the parent company, selling our stuff and sending all the cash right back home? Or is it its own thing, operating like a local German business, raising its own funds, and dealing mostly in euros? The answer to that question is what decides its functional currency. All right, so you've nailed down your financial home base. That's your functional currency. Now you can get into the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day job of actually recording all those transactions that are happening in other currencies. You see, pretty much every foreign transaction follows a three-step dance. First, the moment it happens, you record it using that day's exchange rate. That's called the spot rate. Then, at the end of the month or quarter, you have to go back and update certain things. And finally, when the money actually changes hands, you close it out. Now, that second step, the update at the end of the period, this is where a really important rule kicks in. You don't treat everything the same way. Monetary things, like actual cash or a bill someone owes you, you update those using the latest exchange rate. But non-monetary things, like a building or a piece of equipment you bought 5 years ago, nope, that stays locked in at the rate from the day you bought it. And here is where it really hits the bottom line. If that exchange rate moves between the day you invoice a customer and the day they actually pay you, that difference, whether it's a gain or a loss for you, goes straight onto your income statement. We're talking a real direct impact on your company's reported profit for that period. Okay, so that's the micro level, transaction by transaction. But what about zooming out? What about the big picture? How do you take the entire set of books from that German subsidiary and roll it up into the main company report for your investors? This brings us to a second key term, but don't worry, this one is way simpler. It's the presentation currency, and all that means is, what currency are you using for the final polished report, the one you show to the public? That's it. So, when you're translating that whole German company, the rules are a little different. Assets and liabilities? Yeah, you convert those at the current, closing rate. But here's the twist. Any gains or losses you get from doing this translation, they don't hit your profit. Instead, they get put in a kind of financial parking lot in your equity, a special place called Other Comprehensive Income, or OCI. So why the special treatment? Why this parking lot? Well, it's because these are what we call paper gains or losses. I mean, think about it. The value of your German office building might go up or down when you convert it to US dollars. But that doesn't put any extra cash in your bank account today, does it? That gain or loss only becomes real cash if you actually sell the whole German operation. And finally, like with any of these big global standards, the whole point is transparency. You can't just do all these calculations in a black box. You have to explain what you did, and IAS 21 is very, very clear about this. Basically, you gotta show your work. You have to report the exact amount that currency swings impacted your profit. You need to provide a clear summary of what's going on in that special equity account, that OCI. And super important, you have to tell everyone what your functional and presentation currencies are, and if they're different, you gotta explain why. It's all about leaving a clear map so anyone can follow your logic. So at the end of the day, IAS 21 gives us this consistent method, a way to unscramble our global finances. It lets us create one single picture from a whole world of different currencies. But it also leaves you with this kind of powerful thought. In a truly global economy, every number tells a story. And a huge part of that story is always going to be the translation.